Hello everyone, welcome to another series of Mind Map. Today's topic of discussion is evolution of civil services in India. First of all, we will have a look at the introduction of the topic. Then we will discuss about the civil services during colonial rule, after independence, evaluation of civil services under British rule, and lastly, practice questions. So first of all, let's have a look at the introduction of the topic. The civil services system was introduced in India by the British East India Company. It was mainly established for their commercial benefits and effective administration. Lord Cornwallis is known as the father of the Indian civil service. After him, many European officials brought many reforms time and again to develop efficiency in the services. Now, civil services during colonial rule. 1. Role of Cornwallis. Cornwallis was the first to bring into existence and organize the civil services. He tried to examine corruption through raising the salary of civil servants, strict enforcement of rules against private trade, debarring civil servants from taking bribes and presents from the natives, and enforcing promotions through seniority. Role of Wellesley. Wellesley in 1800 set up Fort William College for training of new recruits. In 1806, this college was disapproved by the Court of Directors and instead the East India College was set up at Haileybury in England. Charter Act of 1853. The company's patronage was terminated by the 1853 Charter Act, which mandated that future recruitment be done through open competition. The Indians, however, were barred from high post from the very beginning. Indian Civil Service Act 1861. This act reserved certain offices for convenanted civil servants, but the examination was held in England in English. The maximum permissible age was gradually reduced to 19 years. In 1863, Satyendra Nath Tagore was the first Indian to qualify the civil service examination. Statutory civil service. Lytton established the statutory civil service consisting of 1/6 of covenanted posts to be filled by Indians. These posts were for high families through nominations by local government and later approved by Viceroy and Secretary of State. However, the system failed and later it was repealed. Aitchison Commission 1886. In 1886, Governor-General Dufferin set up the Aitchison Commission led by Sir Charles Aitchison. The commission was set up to recommend changes in civil services. The commission recommended abolition of statutory civil services system. It also suggested replacing the two-tier classification of the civil services with a three-tier system: imperial, provincial, and subordinate civil services. However, the idea of changing the system of recruitment of the covenanted civil service was rejected. Montfort Reforms 1919. The Government of India Act 1919 proposed a three-tier classification of services: All India, Provincial, and Subordinate. It recommended holding of simultaneous examination in India and England. The Act also recommended that 1/3 of recruitments be made in India itself for higher posts. Lee Commission 1924. Lee Commission was appointed by the government in 1923 to examine the ethnic composition of the Indian public services. The commission was chaired by Lord Lee of Fareham and it had equal numbers of Indian and British members. The main recommendations of Lee Commission were to establish Public Service Commission. It increased Indianization of the services. The Secretary of State should continue to recruit the ICS, Indian Forest Services, etc. It also proposed that 40% of future entrants be British, 40% directly recruited Indians, and 20% promoted from provincial service. And Government of India Act 1935. It recommended the establishment of a Federal Public Service Commission and Provincial Public Service Commission, but the positions of control and authority remained in British hands. Now let's discuss about civil services after independence. After independence of India, the Federal Public Service Commission was renamed as Union Public Service Commission. Also, the Indian Civil Service, that is ICS, became the Indian Administrative Services, that is IAS. Among many leaders, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel strongly supported the continuation of civil services in India to maintain unity and integrity. With the commencement of the Indian Constitution in 1950 and include Part 14, which deals with public services. In 1966, the Administrative Reform Commission was established to focus on the need to ensure the highest Standards of Efficiency and Integrity in Public Services. Kothari Committee, Satish Chandra Committee, and Hota Commission were some important committees that suggested various reforms and changes to strengthen the public services. Now moving on to evaluation of civil services under British rule. Initially, the civil service was started by the East India Company to administer the Indian subcontinent and for the benefit of its commercial affairs. Gradually, as the power shifted into the hands of the Crown, the nature and authority of the civil services also changed. Till 1863, Indian could not enter the services, and even after that, higher positions were reserved for Europeans. The entrance examination of the ICS was held in London in English medium only, and it included classical Greek and Latin learning, which further made it difficult for Indian to enter the services. However, some reforms were introduced, but they were considered insufficient by Indians. The structure of Indian civil services was continued even after independence to provide minimum level of administration. Now it's time for the practice questions. First of all, note down the prelims based question. Question is, Wellesley established the Fort William College at Calcutta because he was asked by the board of directors at London to do so. He wanted to revive interest in Oriental learning in India. He wanted to provide William Carey and his associates with employment, or he wanted to train British civilians for administrative purpose in India. You can send the answer of this question in the comment section. Now moving on to the mains question. Briefly write about the evolution of civil services in India. So that's all for today. Stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks for watching.